made the point that that Eisenhower was the first to use television in 1952 as a medium for buying advertising. Obviously, there is a corollary between what Eisenhower did in '52, or some might argue anyway, and what we just experienced with Barack Obama. Can you flesh that out a little bit for people watching?
Well, I think they both were very sensitive of the changes in technology. Eisenhower in his military career had always been an innovator. If you think back to his use of the tanks, he was way ahead of his time and actually got in some trouble when he was a young officer in an article he wrote about how tanks should be used. So he was always looking for new tools, new weapons, new technology, and television had been around, but it was just becoming more commonplace in the early 50s, and so it made sense as a communication tool to have Eisenhower in television ads talking about the issues, and it worked very well. People had known him and had admired him since World War II, and it was very reassuring to see him on their TV screens in their living room talking about issues, and they felt this guy really is up for the job, just as he was at D-Day, and he could do a good job for us as president. I think similarly, Obama was very skillful at realizing that there was a changing landscape. The days of press releases and faxes and emails were sort of passing us by, and it was much more of an interactive campaign and identifying people and finding ways to reach them, whether it was Twitter or Facebook or podcasting, and he did it very well. So, did the Times create the man, or did the man help usher in the Times? I suppose there's a little of both in both cases, and but the reality is they both were shrewd enough to realize that there were some changes underway and take advantage of it. And
did their opponents fail to capitalize on those same opportunities, or were they just not as prescient?
I don't know that they failed. I don't think they were as good at it. And if you think back to Adlai Stevenson, he was a very smart man, a very accomplished man, but he had a certain reputation as an intellectual, and it was very hard for him to come across, I think, as warm and not the kind of guy you sit around and talk about sports in your living room with, which Ike was. And I think in a similar fashion, McCain used many of the same techniques that Obama did. He had a Facebook presence, and they did send out emails and podcasts and all that. But it wasn't as effective, and the proof is in the numbers. I mean, Obama's supporters on Facebook were in the millions, and I think McCain had something like 500,000. So I would say that their opponents did use them, but they just simply weren't as good at it.
If you can boil it down to very simple snapshot, what's next in terms of microcasting, this concept of making it as personal and individual as possible?
I don't know. The only thing I know for sure is that it's increasingly moving towards the voters' wants and desires. It used to be a political campaign. You wrote one message and you blasted it out on TV ads and in direct mail to every person in the same way, and that's gone now. Now we're going to be trying to find out which voters want to know about which issues, and then sending them direct information on those issues, and then sending another group of voters similar issues. It's not that they're inconsistent, it's the same candidate and the same values and the same themes, but speaking more directly to the particular interest of a group of people on their issues. And I think it's going to become much more voter-driven, much more audience-based rather than candidate-based.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.